When rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders took over, the Browns didn't just change quarterbacks, they changed their entire offensive philosophy, and not in a way that helps him. We're talking fewer pass attempts, ultra-conservative play calls, and missed opportunities that don't match his talent. One week, Dylan Gabriel is throwing it 52 times. The next, Shedeur gets held to 20. Same coaching staff, same system, completely different treatment. This isn't just cautious development. It looks like a setup. Is it ego, favoritism, a hidden agenda, or something even worse? Because from the numbers to the press conferences, the message is clear. They're not giving Shedeur Sanders a fair shot, and if it continues, the public will blame him instead of the people scripting his downfall. Let's break down what's really happening behind the scenes, and why this might be the most quietly destructive decision in the Browns season. When Shedeur Sanders became the starting quarterback, everything changed, and not in ways that make football sense. Before that switch, the Browns' offense was aggressive, pass-heavy, and willing to live with mistakes. Dylan Gabriel was slinging it all over the field. One game, he threw the ball 52 times. In others, he consistently got 30 to 35 pass attempts, regardless of whether he played well or not. The staff gave him the reps, the leash, and the full playbook. But the moment Shedeur stepped in, it all slammed shut. Suddenly, the offense turned into a shell of itself. Simple run plays, short passes, drive after drive where they barely let their quarterback throw the ball. In his first start, Shedeur was limited to just 20 attempts. 20, the next game 25. That's 5 more attempts in a full week of preparation. That's not progress, that's stalling. It's not about the defense they faced either. In fact, one of those games was against a team like the Jets, a defense Dylan Gabriel threw 32 times against. This isn't about strategy, this is about intent. And here's where things get hard to ignore. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, used to call plays. But after losing that responsibility, Rees took over, shifting the power dynamic behind the scenes. And ever since then, the offense under Rees looks suspiciously different, depending on who the quarterback is. For Dylan, it was open, fast, ambitious. For Shedeur, it's careful, restricted, controlled. This isn't just a change in tone, it's a complete transformation of identity. And when your offensive system shifts that drastically from one QB to another, especially one with proven passing ability like Shedeur, it raises one question. Why? Why limit a quarterback with a strong arm, good decision-making, and 0 turnovers? Is it about trust, or is it about control? Because if they don't trust him, why even start him? And if they do trust him, why chain him to the most conservative playbook in the league? Whatever's happening, this clearly isn't about giving Shedeur Sanders a chance. It's about keeping him in check. And what happens next makes this look even worse. It's easy to throw around claims of sabotage, but the numbers? They don't lie. Let's look at what's actually on paper. Because once you stack up the game stats side by side, what's happening becomes impossible to ignore. Start with the Raiders game, Shedeur's very first NFL start. He threw just 20 passes the entire game. That's barely enough to find a rhythm, let alone win. And the Browns weren't being blown out. There was no desperate need to run out the clock or protect a lead. They just didn't let him throw. Next game, 25 attempts, an improvement of 5 throws. Now, compare that to Dylan Gabriel, the same offense, same season, same coaching staff. Against New England, 35 attempts. Against the Jets, 32 attempts. And the big one? Against the Steelers? A jaw-dropping 52 pass attempts in one game. 52. So what changed? Did the playbook suddenly shrink when Shedeur walked into the building? Did the team forget how to pass? No, the difference is the quarterback. And apparently, the level of freedom the staff is willing to give him. That's not situational play calling. That's a pattern, a deliberate shift in trust and offensive identity. Even in poor weather games, other teams found ways to adjust and execute. Meanwhile, the Browns kept running into stacked boxes and scripted plays, like they were afraid of letting Shedeur make a mistake. And let's be fair here, he wasn't even making mistakes. 0 interceptions, no fumbles, over 60% completion percentage. His stat line wasn't elite, but it was clean, especially for a rookie. So why hold him back? Why strip your offense down to bare bones the second a new quarterback steps in, one that you drafted, one that you asked to lead your team? This isn't about the score. It isn't about what Shedeur can't do. It's about what the coaches won't let him do. And here's the dangerous part. The more this continues, the easier it becomes to blame him for the lack of production, even though all the signs point straight at the play calling. But the coaches aren't done, because next came the press conferences, and they only made things worse. Sometimes what's not said speaks louder than what is. After the Browns' most recent loss, head coach Kevin Stefanski was asked about the play calling, the strange fourth down decision, and most importantly, Shedeur Sanders. And let's just say, his answers didn't inspire a lot of confidence. First, he was asked why the Browns went for it on 4th and short from their own 33-yard line, a bold, risky move in a tightly contested game. Stefanski said he felt good about the play, that they trusted the players and the call. But here's the kicker. Instead of running their jumbo package or dynamic formations that had been working, they called a QB sneak both the defense and the fans could see coming. When asked why not use the Wildcat or anything else, Stefanski once again shrugged it off with, "We just didn't execute, that's on me." Vague, empty, avoiding the real question. Then came the topic everyone wanted clarity on Shedeur's status moving forward. Would he continue to start? Is the team committed to him? Stefanski's answers were anything but clear. He said Shedeur was battling just like everyone else, and that there are things they'll fix in film, standard coach speak. But then came the key question, is Shedeur your starter going forward? Stefanski said yes. But when a reporter followed up asking whether that meant a long-term commitment or just a week-to-week decision, Stefanski dodged. "I'm not going to get into that, we all have to play better." That's not confidence, that's hesitation. And hesitation at the head coaching level is dangerous, especially for a young quarterback trying to establish himself. Shedeur is already dealing with restricted play calling, limited pass attempts, and a team stuck in reverse. Now his own coach won't even publicly commit to developing him? If you believe in a young QB, you say it loud and clear, not with a shoulder shrug and a half-hearted "we'll see." These answers don't sound like belief. They sound like a coaching staff covering their tracks. And if their actions on the field weren't enough, their words off it make the situation even more suspicious. But here's where it gets deeper. There might be more at play behind the scenes than anyone's admitting. By now, the numbers speak for themselves. The coaching decisions don't add up. And the press conferences? They raise more questions than answers. So, what's really going on? There's been a storm of speculation floating around. Browns, circles, rumors, reports, and quiet leaks, none of it confirmed, but all of it painting the same picture. Shedeur Sanders isn't just fighting for development, he's fighting something internal. Let's start with the structure. Kevin Stefanski, once the team's play caller, recently had those duties stripped away. That kind of change doesn't happen without tension, especially for a head coach who made his name on offensive control. Losing that role would sting, and in NFL circles, bruised egos can have massive ripple effects. In steps Rees, the new offensive coordinator. And here's where it gets interesting. Rees and Dylan Gabriel have history and not just basic familiarity. Reports suggest Rees was part of the team that scouted or possibly even recruited Dylan before arriving in Cleveland. Whether that connection continued into the pros or not, one thing's been obvious on the stat sheet. When Dylan was under center, Rees gave him everything. Full trust, full playbook, all the reps. With Shedeur, it's the exact opposite. Suddenly, the Browns are playing scared. The offense is restrained. And if that wasn't enough, rumors began surfacing first from fans, then from a few sideline insiders that Shedeur isn't even getting full practice reps during the week. And that's not just speculation. Jerry Jeudy, a Browns receiver, actually hinted at this in a press interview, saying Shedeur had limited time with the starters during practice and was still expected to deliver when it counted. So now ask yourself, can a rookie quarterback succeed when he's not fully prepared, not fully trusted, and not fully supported? Or is he being positioned to fail? Because it sure looks like someone has already made up their mind about Shedeur's future. And everything from the play calling to the media answers to the rep management points to this, he may be on the field, but they don't want him to win. And the public? They're going to blame him, not the system. Here's the thing most fans and even some analysts don't realize. In the NFL, narratives shape careers just as much as talent does. It doesn't matter how skilled a quarterback is if he's being used improperly. Because when the results are bad, people look at the scoreboard, not the context. And that's exactly the trap Shedeur Sanders is walking into, or more accurately, being pushed into. He's not just fighting defenses, he's fighting expectations that were set up to crush him. Let's break it down. If he throws under 30 passes per game, if he's mostly running handoffs, short dump-offs, and conservative third-down plays, if he doesn't rack up huge stats or fourth-quarter heroics, people will say he's not good enough. They'll say he's not ready, that he doesn't have it. But the truth is, he's not being given a real chance to show it. That's where the smear campaign really begins, not in press conferences or media leaks, but in how fans perceive success. Because when you limit a quarterback's opportunities, you pre-limit the outcomes. And in the NFL, where narratives form fast and stick even faster, that can be a death sentence for a young QB's trajectory. What makes this worse? The contrast. People will look back at Dylan Gabriel's time in the pocket and say, well, he struggled too, but at least they gave him a shot. And they'll look at Shedeur and say, he barely moved the needle. But they won't see what we're seeing now, the massive gap in opportunity, the shift in play calling, the total lack of commitment from the coaching staff. They won't care about the reps he didn't get in practice, or the plays that were never called. They'll care about wins, losses, and numbers. Which means that if this continues, the Browns aren't just wasting Shedeur Sanders' growth, they're quietly tearing down his reputation before it's even built. And once that narrative cements itself, it'll take years to undo if ever. All because the people in charge refuse to hand him the keys, or worse, maybe never intended to at all. By now, we've seen the pattern and it's clear. The problem isn't just that Shedeur Sanders isn't being supported. It's that everything around him, from the limited pass attempts to the conservative playbook to the practice rumors, is building one undeniable outcome: failure. And here's the hard truth. This doesn't happen by accident. This kind of consistent, across-the-board change in strategy only when one player steps under center? It's not luck. It's not forgetfulness. It's not just rookie development. It's a blueprint. Think about it. If the Browns were truly evaluating Shedeur as a future quarterback, wouldn't they be doing the opposite? Wouldn't they give him reps? Let him make mistakes? Challenge him with more downfield throws? Build packages around his skill set and unleash every tool available? But they haven't. Not even close. Instead, the coaching staff has leaned into an offense that's scared to pass. They've created a game plan that keeps the ball out of Shedeur's hands while insisting publicly that he's the starter. That's not support, that's image control. It lets them say, look, we gave him a chance, but the reality is, they didn't give him anything real. And when the offense stalls, when the media starts asking questions, when fans want answers, the coaches can shrug and say, well, the rookie couldn't get it done. But behind that excuse is a system that never expected him to succeed. And let's not ignore the bigger picture, because this kind of blueprint doesn't just hurt one player. It tells the entire locker room, and every player watching from the outside, that Cleveland might not be a team that builds futures. It might be a team that protects reputations, hides bias behind playbooks, and puts egos ahead of development. That's bigger than one quarterback. That's a culture problem. And the more you look at the way they've handled Shedeur Sanders, the harder it becomes to believe this is just incompetence. Because at this point, it looks a lot more like intention. If there's any hope left for the Browns to salvage Shedeur Sanders' rookie season or their long-term credibility, the time to fix this is right now. Not after another 3 weeks of handcuffed offense. Not after more post-game excuses. Not after the narrative fully turns against their own quarterback. They need to stop managing expectations and start managing his development. That means making a decision a real one. Either you're all in on Shedeur Sanders as the potential future of your franchise, or you're not. This halfway approach, calling him the starter while running a game plan that treats him like a backup, is doing more damage than people realize. Because if you believe in your quarterback, you don't protect him by limiting him. You protect him by preparing him. That means giving him 35 to 40 pass attempts per game, the same leash you gave Dylan Gabriel. Open the playbook the same way. Let him make mistakes. Let him take shots, take hits, and learn to recover. That's how future starters are made in this league. Start designing plays that maximize his skill set. Downfield throws, rollout motions, quick strike RPO looks. Stop sending him into games with a playbook built to just survive. And if the reason you're not letting him air it out is because you're still evaluating, fine. But then do it honestly. Give him real data, real experience, real game speed. You can't evaluate his ceiling if you're keeping him on the ground. On the other side of that, if the Browns already know Shedeur isn't their guy, if they've quietly decided to go in a different direction, then they need to stop pretending. Stop pretending this is a developmental phase. Stop acting like this is just week-by-week strategy. Because right now, this coaching staff is doing the worst possible thing, pretending to support a quarterback they clearly don't trust while slowly sending his stock into a nosedive, both on the field and in public perception. This isn't just bad strategy, it's franchise mismanagement. Make a real commitment. Or don't. But this middle-of-the-road act? It's not just hurting Shedeur, it's hurting everyone. At this point, the evidence is overwhelming. You don't need a coach's tape or insider source to see what's really going on. Look at the snap counts. Look at the pass attempts. Look at the press conferences where Kevin Stefanski dances around even the most basic questions about Shedeur Sanders' future. This isn't just a struggling offense, it's a system that changes completely depending on who the quarterback is. And while Dylan Gabriel got freedom, volume, and trust, Shedeur has gotten restrictions, silence, and doubt. And we're not talking about a guy throwing INT after INT. We're talking about a rookie quarterback who's stayed composed, protected the football, and completed passes at a solid clip, despite the fact that the offense was built to hold him back. And if you're still thinking, well, every QB's situation is different, consider this. Dylan Gabriel got 52 pass attempts in one game. Shedeur Sanders was capped at 25 twice. The game plan didn't adapt to his style. The coaches didn't even commit to him verbally. And practice reps? Reportedly being split or limited. That's not support. That's not development. That's a slow dismantling of confidence and a setup for an easy scapegoat. Because here's what's coming next. Another loss. Another weak offensive outing. Another press conference where they say the team has to get better in all three phases. And soon, fans and media will start saying what the organization designed them to say. Maybe Shedeur's just not ready. Maybe he's not the guy. But let's be clear, if he fails, it won't be because of talent. It'll be because he was never given a real chance. So what's the real story here? Is this just mismatched play calling? A rookie being brought along too slowly? Or is this something else, a quiet plan to control the narrative, protect the coaching staff, and move on without ever giving Shedeur the keys? That answer might depend on what happens next. But one thing is for sure, the numbers don't lie. The tape doesn't lie. And if you're watching closely, you already know something's very wrong in Cleveland.